I stood in the airport terminal at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning watching passengers flood through the arrival gate. My hands were shaking. Not from cold, not from caffeine, but from the weight of what I was about to take on. Sarah appeared through the crowd pushing a stroller with my 3-week-old niece bundled inside. My brother Marcus had been gone for 3 months, killed in a car accident on Interstate 5. He never got to meet his daughter Emma. As Sarah walked toward me, exhaustion carved into her face, I made a silent promise to Marcus, and to them both. I would help them rebuild. I would be there. I had no idea that keeping that promise would lead me to fall in love with my brother's widow, or that it would eventually put us in the fight of our lives when her parents threatened to rip Emma away from us. Before I tell you how everything unfolded, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If this story resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about love loss and finding strength in unexpected places. Trust me, you will want to hear how this situation spiraled and how we fought back. Let me take you back to where it all began. I loaded Sarah's bags into my truck, while she buckled Emma into the car seat Marcus had installed just days before the accident. The drive from Portland International Airport to her apartment took 40 minutes through morning traffic. Neither of us said much. What could I say? Your husband, my brother, is gone, and now you have to raise his daughter alone. The words felt like stones in my throat. When we pulled up to her building, a modest 2-story complex in northeast Portland, I saw the curtains in the second-floor window that Marcus had hung last spring. Sarah stared at those windows for a long moment before unbuckling Emma. I carried the bags upstairs while Sarah cradled the baby against her chest. The apartment smelled stale, like it had been empty too long. I opened windows while Sarah walked slowly into the nursery. I heard her sob before I saw her. She stood in the doorway of Emma's room looking at the white crib Marcus had assembled the stuffed animals he had arranged on the shelf, the pale yellow walls he had painted while singing off-key to classic rock. Everything was ready for a father who would never come home. I am not going to do this without him, Corey, she whispered. You will not have to, I said, walking up behind her. I promised Marcus I would look after you both. And I keep my promises. She turned to look at me, tears streaming down her face. How long can you stay? I told her I had requested an indefinite leave from my software engineering job in Seattle. I told her I would stay as long as she needed. What I did not tell her was that I had already decided to move to Portland. I could not leave them. Not now. That first night I slept on her couch, a lumpy brown thing that Marcus and I had helped her move in 4 years ago. At 3:15 a.m., Emma woke up screaming. I heard Sarah stumble out of bed, heard her trying to soothe the baby, heard the exhaustion in her voice. I got up, heated a bottle, and knocked softly on the nursery door. Let me, I said. Sarah handed Emma to me without protest. She was too tired to argue. I fed Emma, while Sarah collapsed back into bed. The baby's tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb as she drank, her eyes heavy-lidded and trusting. In that moment, everything changed for me. This was not just about keeping a promise anymore. This was about family. The weeks blurred together. I moved my things from Seattle into Sarah's living room. My entire life fit into 4 boxes and 2 suitcases. I worked remotely when I could, but mostly I focused on them. I woke up when Emma cried. I changed diapers, I learned to swaddle. I figured out which lullabies worked and which ones made her scream louder. I cooked meals for Sarah, simple things like scrambled eggs with toast in the morning and chicken soup in the evening. I did laundry, washed bottles, vacuumed floors. Sarah started to come back to life slowly. By the end of the first month, I heard her laugh at something on television. By the second month, she was singing to Emma. By the third month, she smiled when I walked into the room. One night, in late October, Emma spiked a fever. 102 degrees. Sarah panicked. I stayed calm, packed the diaper bag, and drove them to the emergency room at Providence Portland Medical Center. We sat in those harsh fluorescent lights for 3 hours while doctors examined Emma. Ear infection, they said. Common treatable. Nothing to worry about. But at 4 in the morning, sitting in those uncomfortable plastic chairs, Sarah put her head on my shoulder and said, "I do not know what I would do without you." I felt something shift in my chest, something I had not expected and did not know how to name yet. I put my arm around her and told her she would never have to find out. By the 4th month, Emma recognized me. Her face would light up when I walked into the room. She would reach for me with those chubby little hands. I taught her to play peekaboo. I read her board books about farm animals and colors. I made ridiculous faces until she laughed that pure, delighted baby laugh that makes everything else disappear. Sarah and I fell into a rhythm. Sunday evenings after Emma went to sleep, we would sit on the couch and watch movies. Sarah always picked romantic comedies. I pretended to complain, but secretly looked forward to those nights. I tried my hand at cooking lasagna one Sunday. I burned the edges and underseasoned the meat, but Sarah laughed and said it was the best meal she had eaten in months. We started taking walks in the park, pushing Emma in her stroller down the tree-lined paths of Laurelhurst Park. Strangers smiled at us. A few people assumed we were married. Neither of us corrected them. Sarah began talking about Marcus. Not in the raw, grief-stricken way she had at first, but with warmth and nostalgia. She told me about how he had proposed to her on Cannon Beach, getting down on one knee in the sand while the sun set over the Pacific. She told me about their plans for Emma, the dreams they had spun together about family vacations and teaching her to ride a bike. I listened. I did not feel jealous. I felt honored that she trusted me with these memories. One evening in November, while we sat drinking tea after Emma had gone to sleep, Sarah reached across the couch and put her hand on mine. She did not say anything. She did not have to. The touch said everything. But the peace did not last. In early December, Sarah's parents flew in from Boston, Mr. and Mrs. Harrison. I had met them twice before, once at the wedding and once at Marcus's funeral. Mr. Harrison was a retired lawyer, 6 feet tall, with silver hair and a handshake that felt like a test. Mrs. Harrison was a former piano teacher, elegant and cold, with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. They arrived unannounced on a Saturday afternoon. Sarah opened the door, and I saw the surprise on her face shift quickly to unease. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here?" "We wanted to see our granddaughter, Mrs. Harrison," said, brushing past Sarah into the apartment. Her eyes landed on me immediately. "You are still here, Corey. Has it not been quite a while I am helping out?" I said evenly. "We can see that Mr. Harrison," said, his tone clipped. Over dinner that night, tension filled every silence. The Harrisons peppered Sarah with questions. How was she managing? Was she eating properly? Had she considered grief counseling? And then casually, almost as an afterthought, Mrs. Harrison said, "You know, Sarah, you should think about coming home to Boston. Your father and I have plenty of room. Emma would thrive there. Portland is my home," Sarah said quietly. "Marcus and I built our life here. Marcus is gone," Mr. Harrison said bluntly. "You need family support." "I have support," Sarah said, glancing at me. Mr. Harrison followed her gaze. His expression hardened. "Family should handle family matters, Sarah." After they left that night, Sarah collapsed onto the couch. "Do not mind them," she said. "They are just protective." But I had seen the way Mr. Harrison looked at me, like I was something unwelcome, something that needed to be removed. I should have paid more attention to that look. I should have understood what it meant. But I was too focused on Sarah and Emma to see the storm gathering on the horizon. 6 months after Marcus died, everything changed. It was Emma's half-birthday, a silly milestone Sarah insisted we celebrate. We bought a small pink cake from the bakery on Hawthorne Boulevard and hung balloons in the living room. Emma smashed her tiny hands into the frosting and laughed. Sarah took 100 photos. I cleaned up the mess while Sarah put Emma to bed. At 11 p.m., we sat together on the small balcony overlooking the street. Portland stretched out below us, city lights twinkling in the December cold. Sarah wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "Corey, can I ask you something? Anything. Why are you still here? You have given up so much. Your job in Seattle, your apartment, your own life. Why I looked at her at the way the streetlight caught her features, at the vulnerability in her eyes. Because I cannot imagine being anywhere else. Because when I wake up and hear Emma laughing, or when I see you smile, that is when I feel like I am exactly where I am supposed to be. She started crying. I feel guilty, she said. I still love Marcus. But I think I am falling in love with you too. And I do not know if that makes me a terrible person. I reached for her hand. It does not. Marcus would want you to be happy. He would want Emma to grow up in a home full of love. But what will people think? What will my parents think? I do not care what people think, I said. Do you? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she leaned forward and kissed me. It was slow, tentative, full of hesitation and hope. When we pulled apart, we sat in silence, both of us knowing that everything had just changed. The next 3 months were the happiest of my life. Sarah and I officially started a relationship, though we kept it quiet, unsure how to explain it to the world. I found a remote software job with a company based in Austin and moved my things from the living room into Sarah's bedroom. Emma turned 9 months old and started crawling, then pulling herself up on furniture. She called me Dada, and while Sarah gently corrected her, explaining that her real daddy was in heaven, Emma was too young to understand. We talked about the future late at night. Should we get married? How would we explain this to Emma when she got older? How would we honor Marcus while building our own family? We did not have all the answers, but we had each other. We decided not to tell Sarah's parents yet. We wanted to wait until we felt more certain, until we could present a united front. But secrets have a way of coming out. In mid-March, Sarah called her mother. It was supposed to be a routine check-in. But Mrs. Harrison asked if I had moved back to Seattle yet. No, Mom. Actually, I need to tell you something. Corey and I are together now. Silence stretched across the line. Then, in a voice tight with barely controlled anger, Mrs. Harrison said, Together? What do you mean together? We are in a relationship. We have fallen in love. The scream that came through the phone was so loud I heard it from across the room. Are you out of your mind? Marcus has not even been gone a year. This is disgusting, Mom. Please listen. I will not listen. You are disgracing your husband's memory. And that man, he probably waited for this all along, did he not? That is not true, Sarah said, her voice shaking. Your father and I are coming to Portland. We need to talk about Emma's future. The line went dead. Sarah looked at me, her face pale. They are coming here. 2 days later at 9 a.m. On a Thursday, someone pounded on the door. I opened it to find Mr. and Mrs. Harrison standing in the hallway, suitcases at their feet. Pack your things, Sarah, Mr. Harrison said, pushing past me. You and Emma are coming with us. Sarah, holding Emma on her hip, stepped back. I am not going anywhere. Mrs. Harrison started crying. How can you do this? How can you replace Marcus with his brother? I tried to intervene. Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Harrison, I understand this is hard. You understand nothing, Mr. Harrison shouted. You swooped in. When my daughter was vulnerable, took advantage of her grief. That is not true. I would never. You are a predator, Mrs. Harrison shrieked. You waited for your chance. Stop it, Sarah screamed. Nobody took advantage of anyone. I chose this. I chose Corey. The argument escalated. Emma started crying. Neighbors opened their doors to see what the commotion was about. Finally, Mr. Harrison delivered the blow that changed everything. If you do not end this relationship, we will take legal action. What are you talking about? Sarah asked. We will sue for custody of Emma. We will prove you are an unfit mother. The room went silent. Sarah's face turned white. Emma wailed in her arms. And I realized this was not just about their disapproval anymore. This was war. 1 week later, Sarah received the papers. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison had filed a petition for grandparents' rights, seeking full custody of Emma. The legal document was 10 pages long, filled with accusations that made my blood boil. They claimed Sarah was mentally unstable following Marcus's death. They claimed the living situation was inappropriate because I had moved in too quickly. They claimed Emma deserved a stable, traditional home environment that only they could provide. Sarah read the papers and collapsed on the couch, sobbing. "What if they are right?" she said. "What if I am being selfish? What if Emma deserves better?" I knelt in front of her and took her hands. "You are the best mother Emma could ever have, and I will prove it." The next day, I withdrew $35,000 from my savings account and hired Daniel Foster, one of Portland's top family law attorneys. Daniel was 45 years old, with 15 years of experience in custody cases. In our first meeting, he laid out the situation plainly. Grandparents' rights cases are tough, but not impossible to win. We need to prove Sarah is a fit mother and that Emma's best interest is staying with her. The court will look at stability care, emotional bonds, and the child's well-being. What do we need? I asked. Evidence, testimonies, medical records showing Emma is healthy and well cared for, character witnesses, and we need to show that your relationship with Sarah is stable and genuine, not opportunistic. Whatever it takes, I said. For 2 months, we prepared. We gathered Emma's medical records showing that she had received all her vaccinations on schedule and was developing normally. Dr. Angela Brooks, Emma's pediatrician, wrote a detailed letter confirming that Emma was thriving under Sarah's care. The daycare Emma attended 3 days a week provided a glowing recommendation of Sarah as a parent. Our neighbor, Mrs. Patricia Nguyen, who had lived next door for 3 years, agreed to testify that she had watched Sarah and me care for Emma with dedication and love. We collected letters from Marcus's friends, people who knew both of us. They wrote that Marcus would have wanted Sarah to be happy, that he would have trusted me to care for his family. I spent an entire weekend writing a 3-page letter explaining my relationship with Sarah, how it developed naturally from grief and shared responsibility into genuine love. Sarah prepared her testimony with Daniel, practicing how to remain calm under questioning, how to articulate her decisions clearly and confidently. The court date arrived in mid-May. Portland Family Court was a gray building downtown, all concrete and glass. Judge Rachel Morrison presided, a 55-year-old woman known for being fair but tough. The Harrisons' attorney, Mr. Gerald Thompson, presented their case first. He was 60 years old, seasoned and ruthless. He painted Sarah as a woman so overcome by grief that she could not make rational decisions. He portrayed me as opportunistic, a man who had manipulated his brother's widow at her most vulnerable moment. Mrs. Harrison took the stand, crying as she spoke. "My granddaughter deserves stability. Sarah is making decisions based on grief, not reason. We can provide Emma with a proper home, with grandparents who will put her needs first." Mr. Harrison followed, his voice steady and cold. "Corey manipulated my daughter when she was most vulnerable. This relationship is inappropriate and harmful to Emma's well-being." Then it was our turn. Daniel Foster presented our evidence methodically. Medical records showing Emma's excellent health. Photographs of our family together, smiling and happy. Letters from Dr. Brooks, from the daycare, from neighbors and friends. Each piece built a picture of a loving, stable home. Sarah took the stand. Her voice shook at first, but she grew stronger as she spoke. "I loved Marcus with all my heart. Losing him almost destroyed me. But Corey saved us. He did not manipulate me. He gave me hope. He showed Emma what love looks like. Yes, our relationship is unconventional, but it is real. And Emma is thriving because of it. I would never do anything to harm my daughter. She is my entire world." Then I took the stand. I looked directly at the judge and told her everything. I told her about the nights I spent walking Emma around the apartment at 3 a.m. when she would not stop crying. I told her about teaching Emma to eat solid foods, about her first tooth, about the day she took her first steps while holding my hands. I told her about the emergency room visit, about every doctor's appointment, every milestone. "I love Emma like she is my own daughter," I said. "And I love Sarah, not because she was Marcus's wife, but because she is the strongest, most compassionate person I have ever known. This is not about replacing Marcus. It is about building a future while honoring his memory. Emma deserves to grow up with her mother, in the home her parents created, surrounded by people who love her unconditionally." Dr. Brooks testified next, followed by the daycare director, followed by Mrs. Wynne. Each one confirmed that Emma was happy, healthy, and loved. The hearing lasted 5 hours. At the end, Judge Morrison called for a recess to review the evidence. We sat in the hallway, Sarah gripping my hand so tightly her nails left marks. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Morrison looked at all of us with a stern expression. "I have reviewed all the evidence presented today. While I understand the grandparents' concerns about their daughter's welfare and their granddaughter's upbringing, I find no evidence of unfitness on the part of the mother. The medical records, testimonies, and observations all indicate that Emma is thriving in a loving, stable environment. The relationship between Mrs. Sarah Harrison and Mr. Corey Harrison may be unconventional, but it is not inherently harmful to the child. Therefore, I am denying the petition for custody. Emma will remain in her mother's care. However, I am granting Mr. and Mrs. Harrison visitation rights of 4 days per month to be scheduled in advance." The gavel came down. Sarah burst into tears, pulling me into a hug. We won. Emma was staying with us. Mr. and Mrs. Harrison left the courtroom without looking at us. Outside, standing in the May sunshine, Daniel shook my hand. "You fought well. Both of you. We did not just win," I said. "We proved that love does not follow a timeline or fit into society's boxes. We proved that family is what you build, not just what you are born into." The months after the trial were not easy. The relationship with the Harrisons remained strained. They exercised their visitation rights, taking Emma for long weekends once a month, but conversations were brief and cold. Sarah and I focused on building our life together. Emma turned 1, then 15 months, then 18 months. She started speaking in full sentences. She called me Daddy and Sarah Mama, and we began the difficult work of teaching her about Marcus. We hung his photograph in her room. We talked about him often, making sure she knew she had a father who loved her before she was even born, a father who would have done anything for her. On Marcus's birthday each year, we took Emma to his grave at Willamette National Cemetery. We brought flowers, we told her stories. Sarah cried, and I held her, and Emma, not quite understanding but sensing. The importance was quiet and attentive. 4 months after the trial, Mrs. Harrison called Sarah. Her voice was softer than it had been in a year. "Sarah, I owe you an apology. I let my own pain cloud my judgment. I was so focused on losing Marcus that I could not see that you were still here, still needing support. I pushed you away when I should have held you closer." Sarah cried. "I understand, Mom. I was angry too. But I do not want to fight anymore." Slowly, painfully, they began to rebuild their relationship. It was not perfect. There were awkward silences and careful conversations. But there was also progress. 2 months later, Mr. Harrison came to Portland alone. He spent the day with Emma, taking her to the zoo, pushing her on swings, buying her ice cream. Before he left, he stood in our doorway looking uncomfortable. "Take care of them," he said to me. "Please." "I will," I said. "Always." He shook my hand, and I saw something in his eyes that might have been respect, or at least acceptance. A year after the trial, on a cool October afternoon, I took Sarah back to Cannon Beach. It was the place Marcus had proposed to her 5 years earlier. I did not want to erase that memory. I wanted to honor it. We walked along the shore, Emma running ahead of us, chasing seagulls. When we reached the spot where Marcus had knelt in the sand, I stopped. "Marcus brought you into my life in a way," I said, "and I will spend the rest of my life honoring that gift." I got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. Sarah started crying before I even asked the question. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," she said. "Yes." We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony in our backyard. 40 people attended, including Sarah's parents. Emma, 2.5 years old, was our flower girl. She took her job very seriously, scattering petals everywhere. Some even landing in the aisle. Mrs. Harrison cried through the entire ceremony, but she smiled too. After the vows, she hugged me for the first time. "Take care of my girls," she whispered. "I will," I promised. Marcus's best friend gave a toast. He said that Marcus would be proud, that Marcus always wanted Sarah to be happy, that he would have trusted me above anyone else to care for his family. As I listened, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We had done the right thing. We had fought for our family, and we had won. Now, 3 years after that day in the airport when I picked up Sarah and Emma, our life is full. Emma is 5 years old and starting kindergarten. She knows about Marcus. She knows he was her first daddy, and that he loved her, and that he is watching over her. She also knows that I am her daddy now, and that I love her just as much. Sarah is pregnant with our second child. We are going to name him Marcus if he is a boy. Our life is not perfect. We still have hard days. Grief does not disappear just because you find happiness again. But we have learned that pain and joy can exist side by side, that love can grow from loss, that family is not defined by genetics or tradition, but by the people who show up, who stay, who fight for each other. Sometimes, love finds you in the darkest moments. Sometimes it looks nothing like you expected. And sometimes fighting for it means facing the hardest judgment, not from the law, but from the people you thought would understand. But if there is one thing I have learned, it is this. The family you choose to protect is always worth the battle. And every time Emma calls me Dad, I know we made the right choice. Marcus, if you are listening, thank you for trusting me, for giving me this beautiful, complicated, perfect life. I will take care of them, I promise. So let me ask you, have you ever had to fight for what you believed was right even when everyone around you doubted you? Drop your answer in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means everything and helps us bring more real stories to life. Thank you for listening, and I hope you find the courage to fight for your own happiness, no matter what obstacles stand in your way. Until next time, take care of yourself and the people you love.